Yes, guys, welcome to Chasing Green Arrows. This is a big one. We are going to be looking ahead to the Boxing Day games. I'm joined by regular co-host Mr. Dean Jones. Dean, how are you, mate?
Yeah, happy new season, mate. Happy new season. It does feel like everything just beginning all over again now. Very exciting, though. Like, this is a proper episode. Hello to everybody that is joining us for this one. I feel like we're getting the gang back together tonight properly. Yeah. Like, here we go again, yeah?
Good to see Paul and River and Luke's in the chat. We've not seen Luke in ages. FPL River 2. Good to see so many familiar faces. Guys, it's going to be answering your questions as always. We're going to be going through some key injury news. We're going to be looking at some key tips and that 8 million midfield price bracket, which is a big one. And I don't even know if the solution is you don't go for an 8 million mid, or maybe you go for 2, or maybe you go for 1. We'll help you with that one. We'll, of course, be showing our teams. Like, we've both been changing our teams probably very frequently. Certainly, I've been changing every hour or so. But Dean, I'm guessing you're changing a couple of times a day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still thinking of changes. I'm glad we're getting a lot of people in this chat, because I've got some advice I want from the squad, to be honest. So we're leaning on you lot tonight as much as you leaning on us, because you got to go with hunches a lot of this stage, haven't you? There's a lot of hunches, and especially around those £7-8 million players. Like, I've got a couple of conundrums in that sense, and once you see our teams, you'll see exactly what I mean. So stick around, because I do really need guidance with this.
Yeah, and later in the show, guys, I'm going to be giving you the information you need, if you want to apply for a competition where you could win 2 tickets to Arsenal versus West Ham on Boxing Day. Little Christmas present from me there. Very excited about that one. Unfortunately, I can't go. Family commitments. Yeah. Ruddy says, hello, just finished his night shift. Happy to be back. Ruddy, you've finished your night shift. So I'm guessing it's like, I don't know, midnight or 4 a.m. or something where you are on the world. Let us know. Let us know where you are. Mads is in North.
Fair play to anyone that's jumping on to listen to us at that time of night. I guess we could send people to sleep. Maybe that's it. Not really the intention of this show, but whatever works. Thanks for listening.
For another 4 a.m. Matty, FPL Matty win a lot. So okay, let's work out where you are. If it's 4 a.m., are you in like Indonesia or something? Where are you?
Hang on, Billion Koala saying -70 wind chill in Chicago. I have heard of this. Like, I've got family. I've heard that in Michigan, there's an ice storm today. My family are like, they can't go to work because there's an ice storm coming in. They've all been warned, like, do not leave your houses. I was like, what is an ice storm?
What is that?
Like, last week was cold enough here, and it was like basically just freezing. Like, it didn't even snow, really. Not like heavy snow. So an ice storm? What? I mean, good luck, Billion Koala. Like, and anyone else is dealing with that. Fair play.
Yeah. I'm sure Chicago is nicknamed the Windy City.
Yeah, it is, but that's not why. It's something political, politics. Yeah, it's like because the hot air coming from their mouths. Yeah.
Love that. Good stuff, guys. We're going to move on to some FPL chat. Remember, later in the stream, it's team reveal time. We've also got a section on comparing 8 million midfielders. But first, we're going to have a little look at some fresh off the press.
Yeah, so just run through a few bits of team news. I can't go through every team and every selection dilemma, but I've picked out a few that I found interesting. Hopefully other people do too. Let's start, I think, with Chelsea. There's a lot here.
Yeah.
No Ziyech, no Kovacic, no Fofana, no Loftus-Cheek, no Kante, no Chilwell. They're the ones I'm aware of. Is there any others that... Oh, obviously Brozier. A 7. It's not great. It's not great.
There's going to be some kids playing.
Yeah, I mean, especially in
in the
that like
squad.
midfield, it's I'm slightly concerned for Chelsea's midfield here. No wonder they're on the hunt for a new centre midfielder at the moment. But there is some good news, Chelsea. Reece James is back, and that's good news for all of us too. He's got through his last game. I think he got 65 minutes,
Yeah.
and firmly back in the back in the mix now, right? Like we have to be thinking like get this guy in. I know I have. Be interested to see in the chat who else has Reece James, but I think that is quite big. Like Chelsea, it's a really big time for them. I mean, they are one of the most out of form teams in this league. I was looking back at like who ended badly before we went on pause, and basically the worst teams were Wolves, Southampton, West Ham, and Chelsea. Pretty much,
I've
like
got triple Chelsea.
yeah. Well, this is the thing because it was
The
such a
fixtures.
bad time. You're thinking, well, it can't surely be any worse. They needed the break almost more than anyone at that point.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily help that they haven't been seeing each other for the last month. So I don't know. Mark says he's got James and Hammers with that double game week coming up. Yeah, that sounds like a reasonable idea. Although Kai Havertz, I'm still not sold on 100%.
I swear I've converted so many people to buy Kai Havertz, and that's I really don't want to do that. I've just had someone tweet me to say the same thing, and I'm like, I am going for Kai, I think, but that is so risky. Like he's not even nailed to start in game week 17. The reason I'm going for him is he scored one, I like him. Two, I don't want to go Mitro, although maybe Dean will change my mind on that. But three, he scored a hat-trick against Brentford in a friendly that Chelsea played on Tuesday. There was 3 45-minute sessions. Most of the first team, the big names that are fit, got 60 minutes, including Reece James.
Yeah.
Havertz scored a hat-trick in a 5-1 win. And I just like him as a 1 week punt. But if Havertz starts and plays poorly in game week 17, he'll almost certainly be dropped for game week 18 because he's competing. There's 3 spots, right? And he's competing with like 5 good players in Aubameyang, Sterling, Pulisic, Mount, Havertz. Mount might be playing midfield 3, but it's very high risk. So please, guys, only go for him if you're happy to own that decision alone. But yeah, I personally am, but I wouldn't be recommending it highly.
Yeah, I'm not going to recommend Mitrovic either. I saw somebody else asking about this a second ago. Mitrovic very unlikely to play against Crystal Palace. We'll have to see beyond that whether he plays against Southampton. Still pointing to this foot issue, which he sustained like a month, maybe longer before the World Cup.
International break, wasn't
then
it?
Missed then missed the Fulham games going into the World Cup. Then played the World Cup. Didn't look that convincing while he was there, but he still did all right. Serbia been out the World Cup now for a good 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks.
They didn't make it out the groups, did they?
No, so for a while now, and still not ready. Like that worries me as a Fulham fan massively. But as an FPL fan, it is his foot, and I'd leave Mitro alone for the time being.
Silva said something like this, Dean. He was like, we hope he'll be fit. And then he was like, oh, we hope. And if not, we hope he'll be ready for game week 18. And it's like, he didn't say game week 18, he said the fixture. But it's a bit like, oh, okay, so you're not even confident he starts in a week's time.
This is the thing. If you're not confident he starts in a week's time, you're not going to be fit in 3 days' time, is he? And I just wonder, like, because Fulham have played a couple of games the last week or so. They got Carlos Vinicius, who I imagine will just start for that game, and they'll try and get through that one fixture, and then they'll have Southampton at home on New Year's Eve, and I think they'll probably try to put things right there. So my advice probably to steer clear of Mitro for now. Let's move on. Tottenham, quite interesting. They're going to have Fraser Forster in goal for this one. So that's going to happen. No Richarlison, obviously. He's injured for the next month, maybe a little longer. Lucas Moura, still no sign of him. So a bit of spark missing there, probably, with no Richarlison, and a bit of concern potentially in goal. Or if you fancy getting a Tottenham goalkeeper, it's a bit different. Get Forster. I have heard that Tottenham are going to sign like a creative midfielder in January. That's going to be one of their things. But when Richarlison got injured, everyone was like, oh, they're going to look for a Richarlison replacement. I'm told that's actually not going to be the case. We're probably more looking at like a Kulusevski type player for Tottenham, because they were pretty concerned about the drop-off when he wasn't there, and they missed him so much. Look, it's not, I don't know how you find another player that's available that is like Kulusevski, But that's kind of what I understand is likely to happen there. So let's see what happens there. But I think that's quite interesting for Tottenham. Mark says a Spurs signing Maddison, then Dean. I don't think so. No, I don't think they are.
I don't think they can afford him, can they?
No, it's going to be about £60 million. And if he goes anywhere at
Newcastle.
the moment, I think he's going to Newcastle. So that is one we'll get onto in January. Steve says Tony's a good bet. Sorry.
Good
Nice
one, Steve.
I like it.
Is Tony actually available though, Dean?
He's
He
available,
is,
yeah. While the investigation from the FA is going on, basically, he can play.
Right.
So he can still play at the moment for Brentford. So back in for goals because he doesn't know what's going to happen on the back of this. I mean, there are so many cases against him now. We could be looking at quite a long ban for him. Like, it'd be interesting to see how heavy they go on him here and what these bets exactly were that Tony's been making, because they might want to make a case out of him to put other players off of doing this. So Ivan Toney will have to wait to see what kind of punishment he gets at the end, but he will be playing for Brentford for now. Obviously, a big fixture that Tottenham and Brentford, and obviously Tony and Kane are two of the people to be looking towards for goals. I think they're the only two players in double digits apart from HAALAND. I think I'm right in saying that. So two good picks for FPL, obviously. And Harry Kane looks like he'll be playing. He's back in training, been there 2 or 3 days now, looking to put the penalty miss behind him. Just to wrap up, just to address Liverpool. I didn't actually watch the game last night, so I need to probably get some views on that from you in a bit. But no Milner, no Firmino, no Diaz. Trent is a doubt. Klopp says that he's hopeful that Trent will be there. To be honest, that's enough for me not to pick him. I'm not that desperate to pick Trent at the moment. And if he's a doubt, then I'm steering clear. So that's the advice on that. I guess for Liverpool, I didn't watch the game, but Fabio Carvalho, I see, played in the attack. Did he play on the left side?
Goal. He took it well. He was on the left hand side, but he was so much deeper than Darwin and Salah that it almost felt like he was in sort of centre mid.
Well, that's where he wants to play. He likes to play in the hole.
Him and Harvey Elliott have the same position though, pretty much just on opposite sides, both fairly deep. I looked at the heat map this morning. Salah was sky high. Darwin and Salah are a front two now. Like, that's how Liverpool are playing. It's very, like, even when Bobby's fit, Firmino's dropping deeper, and it's like a split strikers, and it works for Salah. It makes Salah a good FPL option. It makes Darwin a good FPL option. Like, as always, what we saw with Darwin, ton of chances. Didn't convert them, but ton of chances. The expected data for Darwin is better than any forward other than Haaland. It's level with Haaland pretty much in the league. That's how many chances he gets. And his expected assist is high, especially with Salah alongside him. So I saw enough to go, the chances are falling his way. He will start converting them.
What did he actually play like, though? What did he play like?
He's dreadful finisher. Yeah, dreadful finishing
honestly,
again.
I just don't understand.
He caused them problems. Running in behind, he caused them problems. And he put it on a plate for Salah for his goal.
How can he be so bad at finishing?
I know.
How can this be?
I don't get it, because when Liverpool bought him from Benfica, he was something like in the top 4-5% of number 9s in Europe for his overperformance of XG. That season at Benfica, he outperformed his XG by a country mile. He was an incredible elite finisher. But I think it was a one-season wonder. And it was probably one of those seasons where everything just fell his way and he scored a few worldies out of nowhere. I don't know what his expected data looked like for perhaps the 5 years before that. But doesn't look like a natural finisher.
He's not a natural finisher, is he? He's an absolute state. But you're right. Like, if he gets that many chances, he's you have 10 shots, one going.
He's like a Pipo Inzaghi. It's scruffy.
Like, you don't normally get the chance to have 10 shots and hope that one goes in, but he actually might get to have 10 shots the way things are going.
He's got a brilliant skill of chances falling to him. He's always in the right place, and he causes.
It's a great knack, and it's not luck, is it? Like, that's not luck. That is just an instinct to be there and thereabouts. And obviously, the size of him causes problems too. So even if he's scoring inadvertently, they're still goals, they're still assists. If the little touches that he's getting are important, and at a time when Liverpool needs. Well, they need to bounce back big time, don't they? So they need to create some chaos, and I guess they'll be leaning on that. But yeah, probably is interesting that Firmino's out, like Sachin says there. Darwin and Salah are worse assets without Firmino. We'll speak about Salah later on in the show.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, just want to mention on Chelsea, because loads of comments are about Chelsea. It is punty if you're going for one of their attackers. What I would say, defensively, bear in mind, they've been leaky, but Kepa is super cheap. At 4.5 million, Chelsea have got a double game week round the corner. I do think covering that defence is wise with the fixtures they've got, the double. Kepa has been training. Mendy's also apparently refused a contract. So I think Kepa's pretty nailed.
Yeah.
Potter wants a goalkeeper that can play with his feet. And I do think Kepa feels like that solution at the moment. Like Mendy's not great with his feet. At Brighton, do you remember he came in and he put Sanchez in? Sanchez was number 2. Or maybe he bought Sanchez, but he dropped Matt Ryan, who had done nothing wrong, just wasn't very good with his feet. A bit like Guardiola did with Joe Hart.
Yeah.
Potter's the same. He wants a ball player, and Kepa's all right with his feet. He's pretty good with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mendy's on his way out at this point. I'd be surprised if things turn around in his favour from here. I mean, he was already pushed out of the team now. I mean, the fact they're trying to give him a new contract, I guess, is interesting, but the fact he's turning it down, not ideal. So there's even been talk that Chelsea get rid of both goalkeepers and start fresh in the summer.
Emi Martinez.
It's a really interesting situation coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, also, Chelsea played a back 4 against Brentford, which was, considering there was 3 lots of 45 minutes, the one warm-up game they had, knowing they played a 4, I fully expect them to play a 4 again game week 17. So bear that in mind. Reece James, yeah, he might start. He'll still bomb forward in a back 4. Still a great pick, but just to manage expectations there. Also at left back, if it is a 4, it makes Cucurella perhaps more of an option, because in a 5 he's not brilliant at wing back. You often see him at left centre back, but in a 4 probably his natural position.
So. Yeah, definitely. Eddie's just asked again about Mitro. We just addressed this a second ago, Eddie, guessing you weren't on. We are not expecting Mitrovic to start the game, so from that standpoint, you might as well leave him for this game because there are other risky. Yeah, it's too risky for this point.
There's other good forwards. Callum Wilson, Havertz, Martial. There's good options in that price bracket. Like there's loads. So I think that Mitrovic's got the double game week around the corner. If he does start and surprises us, then you can still buy him. That could be your one transfer. Guys, make sure you're liking and subscribing. 95 if you're watching. In 10 minutes time, we're going to be showing our teams, answering your questions throughout. But please do hit the like button if you're enjoying what you're seeing. But next up, guys, we're going to be looking at 8 million midfielders. Have you got one? We'll be asking Dean that question in FPL tips and chips. Here we go. Dean, just off the bat, have you got an 8 million mid? Because at the moment, I don't have one. Have you got one?
Yeah, I've got Maddison at the moment. Yeah, I've got Maddison, and I'm torn really between him and Kulusevski, to be honest. So I'm interested in this segment to see if I've backed the wrong horse.
Yeah, earlier this week I had an 8 million mid. It was Kulu. Then I moved to Maddison, and now I don't have either. But they're the two that I like, and kind of here's why. I think we could probably ignore the minutes for the time being, knowing all these guys are available. Kulu's been injured. In terms of the points, yeah, it's reflective of the minutes. But when you look at the goals and then compare the expected data, Maddison and Foden are head and shoulders clear in terms of goals. They're both on 7. And the expected goals of those guys, it's much, much lower. So they're massively overperforming, 2.55 expected, but 7 goals for Mads, and for Foden, 3.71 on 7. All of these guys, well, they tend to outperform their expected data. Saka's a little bit lower than his in terms of goals. But when it comes to that assist threat, Maddison's still pretty high. 2.7 so far this season. He's converted that to 4. Foden's on 3. So Saka edges the assists, but still, when you're looking at overall, I do like Mads. Foden feels risky, but let's go through them one by one, like the pros and cons of all of them. So Saka, penalty appeal, but how does No Jesus influence that team? And you could cover those Saka points with a Martinelli or an Odegaard that are so much cheaper. So for me, he just feels overpriced despite being a really good option. Mason Mount this season's got really underwhelming data. And I think we'll see him playing deeper under Potter. And I think we'll see him in a midfield 3, which makes picking him difficult. The set piece threat is there. And he has had a slight calf strain. He didn't play in the friendly against Brentford on Tuesday. Kulu for me is like Tottenham's spark, especially when they've got a few injuries. You know he's going to play with Richarlison out. I like it. I'm not in love with the Spurs fixtures. They got Brentford away, and then I think it's Aston Villa, who didn't have many players at the World Cup, and Emery's teams are well drilled, he'll start with defence first. I don't think going to Brentford or playing Villa are easy fixtures by any stretch. And then the fixtures actually get even harder for them. Maddison's the standout, but my concern is the January transfer window, links with moves. Will he take his foot off the gas? Will he miss games? I don't know. But at the moment, from what we saw pre-World Cup, and also injury status, we don't fully know. But what we saw pre-World Cup was he's flying. He's awesome. The fixtures, I think they got Liverpool in game week 18, but then after that, it looks okay. And Foden started 1 in 4 before the World Cup. Now, with so many fixtures for Man City, I'm sure he'll get loads of Premier League minutes, but he'll miss loads as well. It's a lottery. And Mahrez played so well on the right last night, scored a great goal. You just don't know. It feels too risky with Foden.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people saying like Maddison's flagged and waiting for results on a knee, and that's true. You know, we genuinely don't know at this stage. I mean, we're still like 3 days out from this game, and we're not going to get another update officially before that point. It's like the Christmas and stuff. Like team news is sparse at this point. Like you won't really get any. So even if he gets better, we won't know. But the thing is, even if he's on the bench, he's playing against Newcastle at home. Newcastle are the team that want to sign him. He'll want to play. He'll want to play in this fixture, even not necessarily he's playing for a move. He'll just want to play in this fixture if he can. It's been a really weird time for James Maddison. All the build-up was to getting a spot in that World Cup team. He got injured, still went to the World Cup, wasn't seen any minutes at the World Cup, did get to meet David Beckham, which was nice for him, comes home from the World Cup, and he's still got a problem. I think he'll be desperate to play football. I think that the fact that he's going to be one of the topics of the transfer window probably helps him. I think he likes that, to be honest. That doesn't put me off, James Maddison. His next game after Newcastle was Liverpool away. I don't think that's a bad thing. So if he's fit, I think that's not a bad thing. And then after that, we've got a nice run of games for him. Fulham, Nottingham Forest, Brighton, Aston Villa. Like, they're a good run of games. The thing is, as you'll see with my team in a minute, I'm not overly concerned if Maddison doesn't play because I've got a good backups. My midfield is pretty strong and I've got it. And I'm quite content that if he doesn't play and the other midfielder comes in, then that's fine. So
you want him from 19 onwards, really, and you've got great fixtures there for him.
Yeah. So it depends. If you're not willing to gamble on him and you don't want to be using a bench player, if he's not there, then fine. Don't pick him, steer away, and go Kulu probably. But I'm still tempted to go with him.
Yeah, no, I like the pick. And if he does leave Leicester, he's going to want it. You'd think he'd want to leave on a high. They
don't want to lose him at all. They really don't want to lose him in this window. But if Newcastle genuinely come forward with £60 million, it's going to be hard to say no.
Yeah. FPL River asked about Trossard, which is a fair point because Brighton, there's a good chance they get a double game week. It's not been announced yet. So
we can't ignore them again, can we? We've done that in the first half of the season.
They're a good team, Brighton. But Trossard came off the bench against Charlton. That game went to pens and Charlton knocked Brighton out. But it was very much a B team from Brighton. They don't confirm to have a double pool. It's likely they will, according to Ben Crellin. So yeah, that's not a confirmed double game week for Brighton. The only confirmed teams with doubles are Chelsea. Well, you know them. They're in the on the FPL website. Chelsea have a double coming up. I think Spurs do as well. Arsenal have got one in the not too distant City as well. So yeah, there we go. In conclusion, for me, if I was to rank these guys, I'd rank. I don't know how I'd split Maddison and Kulu. I think I'd probably go Mads 1, Kulu 2. I don't know. For me, because of the fixtures and the double game week, I'd probably go Mount 3. Like Mount wasn't part of my early thinking. Then I'd go Foden for the punt. And then it would be Saka, number 5.
Last, really?
Yeah, just because of Odegaard, Martinelli. I think they're both really good options and they're like $1.5 million less.
Yeah, I was torn between those two, actually. I've picked one of them, but I was very torn over which of Martinelli and Odegaard to pick. But I have decided to go with one of those guys. So we'll get onto that in a minute. But yeah, it's good. That's really interesting. Like the stats. I know like people like you lot don't do stats. But occasionally we need to, like especially at moments like this, because we need to assess like who are the actual picks. If we're going to a new season, we wouldn't have any evidence behind us of what we're about to see. At least we have some here that we can actually use. Yeah,
it was actually these stats that put me off Mason Mount. Like I was on Mason Mount. I was thinking, straight away. Then I went, no, I'm going to go Kulu. Then it went to Mads. But I wanted to cover that Chelsea attack. You'll see with my team review in 5 minutes how I've covered that attack. And again, it's very punty. What I'd say about these 8 million mids guys, there are incredible options at about 1.5 less. So Rashford is 6.7. He should be in everyone's team. He's like 20% owned. 6.7 million for Rashford, playing super advanced. Martinelli's mid sixes. So again, loads less. And Almiron's 5.8. Those three players, Almiron, Rashford, Martinelli, in terms of points per million and value, I much prefer to the guys on screen. But I wanted to show you these 8 mids so we can compare them if you want to cover that price point, or if you want to cover one of those teams, because, you know, the likes of Leicester and Spurs, they don't really have 6 million midfield options that we like. Well, they do have good 8 million options, as we can see on screen.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a problem all season, these 8 million mids.
Yeah, do you know what? I didn't start the season with one, and I lost out a little bit because a lot were changing between the likes of Saka and Maddison and doing really well. And I never really covered that spot because I went with 3 premiums instead of 2. It meant that I had to have a lot of budget players. But fortunately, the budget players like Almiron and Martinelli have been massively performing. So I hope they continue that. Good stuff, guys, in the chat. Thank you so much for supporting the stream and liking and subscribing. Loads of you have jumped on in the last 5-10 minutes. We are going to be showing our teams next, and as always, answering your questions. So continue to get your questions in. I can see loads looking at City attack, and FPL Seals just said, what are our thoughts on that triple City attack? Foden, KDB and Haaland. I like it. I just feel like they are the best defensive team in the league as well. So does it make sense to cover them at the back? I think it probably does. I'm just worried about Foden minutes, but you never know with Pep. He goes through these phases of having flavour of the month. And at times it's Grealish, at times it's Foden, sometimes it's both, or sometimes it's Mahrez. And I was really surprised before the World Cup. Foden missed 3 games in a row. He came on in all of them, got 1-pointers. Then he started game week 16 and got a 9-pointer. And when he starts, he's great value for points. It's just calling those starts is so tricky.
100%, yeah.
Shall we have a look at your team, mate?
Let's go.
I'm very keen to see it. Let's have a look at our team reveals up next.
Here they are, the lads. Right. So as you can see, like, just to start with the midfield and cover what we were talking about with Maddison, like at the moment, like it would be basically Almiron or Mahrez coming in, I guess. Like it doesn't really matter. Like it's such a strong midfield. I actually don't know who I would leave out at this point. I've got Martinelli in the end. I went for him over Odegaard. And Mahrez, the fact that him and Haaland were the only two that have basically been involved in the World Cup just makes me think, okay, this is one of the few weeks I think I can bank on Mahrez playing.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great 1 week punt. A great 1 week punt because you can sell him. You can sell him after.
I'll sell him. Like I don't intend to.
Or if
keep
he has
Mahrez.
a worldie, you keep him for another week. But
yeah, it might be like a Bernardo Silva situation when I ended up keeping him for 7 weeks or whatever. But yeah, there we go, Mark. Bernardo messaged me. He's very hurt. I know. It's as I say. It's only because of this. The more I thought about the fact that Mahrez hasn't been playing, I was like, well, hopefully that means I can judge this right and put him in. So it's a bit of a gamble, but what I've decided to go with. And yeah, so that's how we're looking. Martial has kept his place. Even after watching the United Burnley game, I wasn't overly impressed with Martial, and he got a knock at one point. And I thought I might have to take him straight out. But he is going to play centre forward, and he's going to get chances. And I think just looking at those fixtures, I've just got to back him at this point. If he doesn't bang in those 3 matches, then he's out. Like
6.7 million is so cheap for Martial.
It's so cheap.
The starting number 9 for United is under 7 million. That's
starting now, exactly. And with those runner games, and the first one being at home is a massive game for them to get back. So I know a lot of people are thinking Rashford and blah, blah, blah for the midfield, but I'm just like, I'm going to cover Man United by getting Martial and just hoping for the best. So he's going to start. In defence, look, my starting 3 will probably be Trippier, Reece James and Gabriel. And I'll go with Kepa, I guess, will probably get the nod in goal. It's just a case of who I decide to start in the midfield. Like I imagine I'll put Almiron on the bench, to be honest. And then if Maddison doesn't play, then Almiron comes in. So shouldn't be too much of a concern. Michael says, is Dalot not a doubt? Yeah, he is a doubt, but he'll be on my bench. And he's 4.8. I don't mind having him for now. Like I'm not too fussed about that. I don't think he's gonna be out too long.
He's great for bonus points, Dallo. He's really good for assist threat. He had a great World Cup. I really want Dallo in my team, and it's not the flag that puts me off him. It's just squeezing him in because there's other good defenders out there. But for a flag like Dallo, guys, if it's just you got to think, yeah, if he misses Forest, that's okay because I get him for Wolves or I get him for Bournemouth. And if you're already thinking he's one of your bench defenders anyway, like he's your fourth best defender, not your third, he's your fourth, then you're probably okay with that. What do we think to Martial, Punk? Craig's mentioned this, and
Craig doesn't like it at all.
Craig doesn't like it because of the injuries, and so many in the FPL community have gone with Martial, but it's 50-50. I've seen a lot of commentators out there saying, no, you can't go there because of his injury. But my take on injured players is that you sell them when they're injured.
Yeah, I'll just deal with that if he gets injured.
When they're fit, they're the same as everyone else. At the moment, he's fit. So,
yeah, and Rashford won't be starting as the 9. Bruno's not going to start as a false 9 while they've got the option of Martial or Rashford. So I'm not concerned about that really, Craig, to be honest. It was enough for me. As soon as I saw that Martial was starting as the 9 in that Burnley game, it was all I needed. I'm only really first and foremost looking at the Nottingham Forest game. I'm not looking at this really much beyond that. If that really didn't work, I'm quite happy to take him out. And I'll look elsewhere. I'm not that fussed. John thinks
Man United's fixtures are good, Dean, in terms of spread. Sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to mention 27th they play, right? So it's Forest on the 27th. So that's Tuesday. Yeah. Then it's Saturday. So Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday.
Right.
That's not too bad. And then it's an FA Cup game on the Friday, which you'd think Martial be rested in. It's against Everton, but you'd think if you're going to rest him, the league's the priority, right? So probably Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, I think is doable if he's only playing, because he probably won't be getting 90. He'll probably come off like he did the other night. He'll come off at 70, but that's, 6.7 million.
This is it. And it's just a differential. I mean, like, I might have to mix things up at some point. I've had Kane in my team all season. I'll be honest, there's still part of me that thinks I might regret not sticking with Kane. I think there's every chance that he might come back from this miss and just completely put it behind him. So he has got a strong mentality and just carry on where he left off. And because he's been a really good, consistent FPL player this season, Harry Kane. Yeah, he's regularly got
so well for both of us. We've both had him pretty much all season, haven't we? And he's ticked along. Like he's constantly getting to 7-8 points.
Should I still have him? What am I overthinking this a bit by leaving him out? And maybe I am. Maybe I'm going to have to mix this up in a couple of weeks' time. But for now, I'm going to go with it because of the fixtures. You're welcome, Craig, by the way. So we'll give it a crack from there. I'm reasonably happy with this. You not tempted to go Mahrez or Martinelli and upgrade? We're going to talk about Cancelo towards the end of the show, Alex. So definitely stick around because in about 20 minutes we're going to do a proper chat about Cancelo and Mo Salah, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. Cancelo and Salah, both very topical. Like so many going with KDB over Salah, so many going for a cheaper option than Cancelo. Those 50-50 calls we'll be looking at. Let's just round up on Dean's team then. Let us know in the chat what you think. Let's give it a mark out of 10. Let's see some numbers. I saw 8 out of 10 come in earlier.
Rate me or hate me. Come on.
Martial's got me thinking. Am I trying to be too clever with Havertz and Martial? Havertz, we don't know if he's going to start. There's a good chance if he does, if he plays bad, he's dropped. Martial, as long as he's fit, is going to be starting these football matches. So I'm slightly jealous how clear you are on Martial. My only sort of slight concern is I do think each week with that midfield, you're going to be benching, because from your first 8 players, the midfield and the forwards, you can only play 7 of them, right? In a 3-4-3 or 3-5-2. So you're going to always have to bench, but probably Almiron, which is potentially dangerous knowing how good he's been, and he's 5.6. You could be benching a 4.5 Andreas Pereira, for example. But
I might be benching Martial, and they might be playing all 5 midfielders. That might be the first time I do that all season. Yeah.
John Cahill's nailed it. Comment of the stream so far, 9 out of 10. I'd agree with that. Just missing Tim Ream.
I don't know if it's a 9. I'll probably go 7.5. I'm not convinced myself about it at the moment. There are a couple of punts in there. But look, at this stage, I don't mind. We've got here like a free wild card. Like I'm going with it. I can address it in a few weeks' time if it's a problem.
Yeah, and look, the 1 week punts, like your Mahrez shout, I think it's great. Like so much fun. And look, no one's saying Mahrez is nailed around here. Dean and I just both think he's going to start game week 17.
Yeah, I think he'll start. And if he doesn't start, I imagine he's going to get a decent run because he needs one. And the other players haven't been there. They just haven't been at the club. Pep's been saying this week, I don't have any players. So just a hunch.
Right, good stuff. Don't get Maddison, says Richard. Oh, I don't know about that. He's been so good. And yeah, Alex, you've nailed it. He is absolutely so cheap, Martial. So, okay, let's move on.
Let's see yours.
Let's have a look at my team. This is where I'm at currently. I feel fairly settled. This team hasn't changed in, I think, 2 days, even after watching Man City Liverpool last night. So it's really annoying, Dean. So many have watched City versus Liverpool. And all for the last 2 weeks, they've been going Salah over KDB, Salah over KDB. And they've watched that game and gone, KDB got a couple of assists, looked really good. Sure, Salah scored, but City were flying. And they've gone Salah out, KDB in. And I'm so annoyed because KDB felt like a bit of a differential in the FPL community. Every draft pretty much had Salah. And now they're all going back to KDB. So that was kind of like my differential punt. I know he's 37% owned, but in terms of people I'm competing with, he was like 2% owned.
Yeah.
So not anymore. It seems like about 60, 70% are now back on KDB instead of Salah. But there we go. And I'll start at the back. I'm going to keep Arsenal covered despite them ranking really lowly in the fixture difficulty rating. They're like ranked 15th or 16th. But they are the second best defense in the league, very close to Man City. They've only expected to have conceded 10 goals all season. Like, I want to cover that Arsenal backline. At the moment, White will be on my bench until the fixtures turn. James Cancelo, Trippier picks itself. Bueno might be Patterson, 4.0 Patterson. Potentially more nailed than Bueno. Bueno could come out the team when Johnny's back fit. Or if Nori hits form, Patterson is nailed at 4.0. But does the fifth defender, the third substitute, really matter? Should I just be saving money there and go for 3.9? Bueno was man of the match for Wolves the other day as well. Martinelli, I'm keeping. Almiron, I've not had all season, and his ownership scares me a bit, but also just I want to cover Newcastle attack. I don't have Callum Wilson. De Bruyne, I've told you how much I love. I feel like he's the better option than Salah. Rashford, the standout United player for me. And then Andreas does have a double game week coming along, and he's the standout budget midfielder in the game.
Yeah, I was a bit... you talked about my midfielder a minute ago, and I'm giving myself a bit of a headache with bench, and it was Andreas I got rid of. For the first time this season, I've taken him out, which I might genuinely regret that, and I might be backtracking because he is such a good asset, isn't he, in this game?
Yeah, exactly that. A few pointing out, Everton could get a double in 21. Yeah, they could. And it's not a bad double either from memory. Ben Crellin has tweeted to say that he thinks it's likely, I think he said.
Yeah, Alan makes a good point. West Ham aren't that good, are they? I think Skamaka is not available. West Ham just aren't that good. Everyone's being down on Arsenal. I think there's a chance they win at the weekend, 2 or 3-0.
Yeah, I've got a bit of a benching dilemma with Ben White because I actually would want to start him at home to West Ham.
Yeah.
But I also want to start Trippier and I also want to start Almiron. And I'm going to bench Bueno and Andreas, and then it's one of White, Almiron, Trippier. And I feel like Newcastle players potentially have that higher ceiling. Trippier's been so good going forward. But Leicester at King Power, maybe I'll go one Newcastle and play White. Up front, HAALAND, Darwin. I've said about Darwin's expected data that I just love. And because I'm not going Salah, I do feel like I have to cover that Liverpool attack. Havertz is the big talking point. I don't know if he's going to start. It's very difficult to call. But he did get a hat-trick. So I think he starts in 17. If he plays poorly, though, he'll be dropped for game week 18. I just have to sell him. I have to judge how he plays against Bournemouth at home. Bournemouth have been hit by a flu as well. Chelsea at home to Bournemouth on paper is arguably the best fixture they're going to get all season. So I just want to give Havertz a run. Yeah. There's no other Chelsea attacker I can really get to. Sterling's too expensive. Mount's too deep.
What's Aubameyang?
Aubameyang, I think I'm more confident on a Havertz start than an Aubameyang start.
Oh, yeah.
He's been useless since he arrived, Aubameyang. Even with his pedigree, I'm just looking out. He's 8.7. So I couldn't afford him with this team either.
No.
Cancelo is a big talking point, but we're going to talk about him very shortly. And Nuclear said I couldn't resist because my original draft didn't have Cancelo. And I looked at it and went, I can actually afford him now because I didn't go for an 8 million mid. If Martinelli was Kulu or Maddison, which he was for a while, then I couldn't afford Cancelo. But as it stands, I just decided to keep with Martinelli because he could get some game time at number 9. I think Nketiah will, but you could see him move to number 9 later in games. And I'm just backing the fact that Arsenal have been the best team in the league this season. I want to cover that defence and I want to cover that attack. I do remember game week 9 FPL River where Havertz played Norwich and was the only player that didn't score FPL points. And I captained him over Salah, who got a hat-trick, I think it was, against Man United. I remember that well. But I also remember later in the season, game week 33 or whatever it was, Havertz had a double game week and got me like 19 points and I captained him. And he was like 1% owned. So I like the fact he's differential. And remember, these players don't know that you own them. What's happened before is it doesn't bother me.
Inconsequential, yeah.
Really is. So there we go, guys. Give me a rating. Feel free to mark it out of 10.
I think you'll get higher than me.
Saying I like it, but not the Havertz shout, which is fair enough. I'd say my team is very templatey, more templatey than Dean's. Yeah. I got a lot of respect for Dean for some of his sort of left field punts, like a Martial, for example, or a Maddison. Mine feels a little bit more Twitter template, other than it doesn't have Salah, it doesn't have Martial or Mitro, it's got Havertz instead. So there we go. Kev Max giving me an 8.5. Thank you, mate. Alan's given me an 8. I've seen some 7s.
Luke's battered you with a 6.
Oh, who gave me a 6?
Luke.
Come
on, he's having
dude.
none of it, mate. None of it. Massive Salah fan.
Luke, you're a big BBC 5 Live fan, aren't you? I'm on the 606 Fantasy Pod on the 27th with Chris Sutton and Ali Bruce Ball. So do check that out, Luke. Jason saying 7, Paul 7. Okay, we'll take that. I think we've probably got another 5 minutes or so before we move on to Against the Obvious. So, guys, feel free to ask me questions about my team and how that might link to what you're thinking of doing. Our team values. Oh, I don't know off the top of my head.
I don't know either. See if I can get it up.
I think I might. We're in a mini league, aren't we, Dean? What's it called? We're in a CGA team. Here we go. My team value is 102.4, and Dean's is 102.2.
Okay.
Wow, Charlie, our good friend, is 103.2.
Is he?
I mean, he's lower than both of us in terms of points, but he's got a higher team value. And I guess that's like a good takeout. Like, team value isn't everything.
No. I'm just trying to remember what my rank is here. I'm trying to look for it. Overall.
You're 678.
678, okay.
That's 678k, which is better than FPL Black Boxes and Fantasy Football Scouts as a good friend of mine, as is on like 800k. So yeah, you're
yeah, I'm doing okay. Yeah, it's fine. Maybe I'm about to ruin it with this team. I've just had a good punt on.
Craig asks about Cancelo. That's the only question we probably can't get to right now because we're going to be talking about Cancelo in the next couple of minutes in a cool feature we've got coming up. So any other questions on my team? What about Man City defense though? Let's talk about some of the others then. Because I was going to cover Cancelo by going Kyle Walker. I'm just not confident.
I know. I thought about him too. After he said his price the other day, I was very close to picking him in. I was like, he's not going to play, is he? He's not going to pick him.
He could play Cancelo right back and he could play Ake left back. And Ake played really well last night. Or he could play Cancelo left back and Akanji right back. He's had some game time at right back.
Yeah, he does like that.
And he didn't come off the bench last night, Walker. Yet Stones did come off the bench. He didn't need to make a sub at centre back. He was like, I need to get Stones some minutes. He was okay not giving Walker those minutes. And I just wonder, and Stones can play right back too. Just wonder if Walker's a bit further down the pecking order than perhaps we recognised because he was injured before the World Cup.
Yeah, it could well be that, couldn't it? And it's look, he fitted into England's setup for a very clear reason. Man City don't need that. Man City don't need him for those same reasons that England did. So at this stage of his career, maybe it is that Walker's just going to play as and when opportunities arise, rather than being one of the first picks from Pep.
Yeah. And from the other Man City defenders, because they're all around 5 million, the centre-backs, Ake, Akanji, Laporte. Could you look at any of... Diaz is out for a month.
Yes,
so in theory, we should be able to look at a centre-back and go, they're nailed. Stones. I don't know if there is one. I think Laporte is the most nailed, but who's going to play next to Laporte every game? Will it be Akanji? Will it be Stones? Could Ake get some game time at centre-back? Probably not because they're both left-sided, but it
is really difficult.
I'm just going to go Cancelo and spend the money, I think.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Like in a few weeks' time, we might have or a few games' time, we'll have a good idea of what Pep's thinking is there. But at the moment, yeah, you can't really punt on it because we don't really know, even after watching last night.
Yeah. I've just tweeted Sam showing my team now. So I'm going to have to keep this team on screen for at least another couple of minutes, guys. But thank you for your questions. Are you concerned that Darwin can't finish his dinner? I'm going to come to Dean on this because I'm only going to tell you good from Darwin because I like the expected data and I like the chances he gets. But it is a concern.
Well, I don't think he's a good footballer. So, like, and I've never seen a player like this. Well, I have seen players like this, and I can tell. I make very quick calls on players when I think that they're not good enough, and I don't do it very often because, like, they're elite footballers, but from the moment he joined and like started, I was like, there is something not right with this guy. Like, he does not suit Liverpool. His touch is terrible. His shooting is all over the place. He's like, he just hits them and like it could go anywhere. It's like, I've played football to a reasonable level, and like in non-league, you get players that come along and they don't know themselves really what's going on, but they're still very good and they're very effective at times. And you're looking at them thinking like, I don't know what's going to happen next. And Darwin's one of those. Like, I genuinely think sometimes like he's not even sure. But as I've also said before, when Darwin played, for example, against Fulham, he was annoying. He was really annoying, and I think he got an assist, didn't he? When he managed to get a touch on something in the box. He was a nuisance to mark. Obviously, he's a big physical threat. I saw Man City fans were giving him some stick last night, comparing him to Andy Carroll, and he could hear it, and he had a bit of a laugh. He's a little bit like Andy Carroll. He's a bit better, but there's not that much difference here. There's not that much difference. It might be that he needs, like, after a year, he clicks and he finds his way into this Liverpool team. I don't think he's a good footballer, but that doesn't mean he's not a good fantasy pick. I've said this before, and like I won't pick him personally because I've dug him out too many times. But I can see why you're picking him.
Yeah. It's weird because when I see him bearing down on goal, I think his decision making is poor. But when I see him playing football, making intelligent runs off the ball, running the channels as he does, the way he put it on a plate for Salah last night, for example, very, very intelligent play. And he gets a ton of chances, which means his movement must be elite for the chances to keep falling to him. I question, how can that be the same guy that can't make that 50-50 call when you're bearing down on goal to hit the bottom left corner? And instead he shanks it top right or that I don't know what that comes down to. I don't know if that's a confidence thing or if that's part of settling in being a smaller fish in a bigger team. He was the big fish at Benfica, and maybe he played with a slight swagger that he hasn't got yet. We saw the same I remember seeing Joel Linton when he first went to Newcastle, and everyone thought Joel Linton was this really good player, from sort of 40 million from the Bundesliga, Brazilian number 9, and he was poor for so long, and he settled, and sure, he's moved to centre mid, but even when he does play further forward now, you look at him and he's a different player. And I just wonder if that was the big fish thing that perhaps we're seeing with Darwin.
Oh, Sundance has called me out. Look, I didn't say bad footballer. I said technically he is not on the same level as the rest of that team. He's not. He's just not.
Yeah, technically he's miles behind.
He's just not. He cannot control the ball in the same way that like 90% of that Liverpool team can. He does not make the same decisions as consistently well as the rest of that team do. And look, maybe I'm being unfair and he's just not quite got there yet, and he's going to get there. Look, Klopp wouldn't keep playing this player if he didn't believe that he was good enough. And Jurgen Klopp knows far more about football than I do. But there's something that just at the moment isn't good enough. And, we've seen that. Like, they're not as good. It's no coincidence that like they lost Sadio Mane, they've brought in Darwin Núñez, and they are now nowhere near the title race. Like, Darwin Núñez was supposed to help them stay at that level. I know there's been other issues too, but ultimately, he hasn't stepped in with the goals that Mane used to when Salah wasn't scoring, and Liverpool aren't in the title race.
Yeah. Good stuff. To move on Darwin, I'll leave you with the reason he's in my team, guys, and that is the expected data I love. He's up there with Haaland for expected goals and assists, and that's not real FPL points, and that's not real goals and assists, but geez, this guy gets chances like no other. At some point, he's going to start converting them like he used to convert them at Benfica. Yeah. And in a few friendlies, even the other day, I think they played AC Milan in the Middle East. They won 4-1. Darwin got a couple. He looked really good. He can have those moments. So
yeah, I think every time he scores now, this entire stream is just going to giggle because they know what my reaction will be. It's like a kick to the gut. I'm like, oh no, I'm wrong. I'm going to be wrong, aren't I? I'm going to be wrong.
Okay, guys, thank you for the love. Do give us a like if you're just joining us. Loads of jumping on. We've got over 200 watching, but only 56 of you have hit that like button. Come on, team.
Come on, peeps.
Get them on. Look, we're going to do something really fun now. If you've not seen this before, it's a bit of fun, but it's often controversial. And this week, it's going to be more controversial than ever before. The next 120 seconds are going to be a whole load of fun. Here is Against the Obvious.
Here we go. It's time for me to lay into Cancelo and back up why I'm not picking him. So let's go. Let's just do this and get it out the way. Look, Cancelo obviously has been one of the best players in this game. Probably still will be points-wise by the end of this season. But at 7.4 million, I just cannot go there. I'm looking back at his stats from the season. I had him, by the way, up to this point, up to the point we were on pause. And he was winding me up so much. And I'm looking back now at the points he got. 1 point against Brentford, -2 points against Fulham. Got 6 against Leicester, 2 against Brighton, 2 against Liverpool, so it continues. You look at his points at the moment as we're looking at it this season, and he's doing fine. He's got 70 points, but the players around him are so much cheaper. Shah is on 67 points, way cheaper. Ben White's up there on 66 points, way cheaper. Castagne is like 5 points behind him. It's a great option to be considering right now. Ben Mee's even not that far behind him. And then ahead of him, you've got Gabriel, Saliba, and Trippier, who's the best defender in the game at the moment. I don't think Cancelo's as good as this season as he has been. He's getting yellow cards. I don't trust it.
Oh, good stuff. Good argument. Good argument. Guys in the chat, let us know. Are you Cancelo in or out? Because I think most seem in, but I've seen a few big names going, no, it's just not worth the money. And he does feel overpriced.
It's just that price, man. Like 53% ownership, I think is so high on a £7.4 million defender that isn't like clearly ahead. Look, Kieran Trippier is on 96 points. He's like way ahead of Cancelo at the moment. And he's 65% owned. So it's like not this massive gulf between the two. I just find it weird that like that many people are sticking with him. Like, I know maybe it's just because consistently he's going to be there.
He's changed though, the way he's playing a bit. Like last season,
I think so.
He was getting loads of chances. He had more shots than any other Man City player last season, like shots and assist threat. This season, again, like no goals, no assists, or very few. And even I keep talking about his expected data of players, but he's ranked really lowly for expected assists as well. He doesn't seem to be as attacking this season.
Yeah, I agree. His game has definitely changed slightly. Maybe it's that Pep's altered things after changing a couple of players in the summer. Maybe things like Raheem Sterling have a bigger effect than we realised, like in terms of the way this team's set up, and he's getting people used to different roles. But yeah, Cancelo does not have quite the license he did. I don't know. He's probably gonna bang this weekend. But if he does.
Surprised to see loads saying Cancelo out though. They're not in their teams. Loads saying that more than perhaps saying in. He's in my team. He's in Nuclear Atom's team. I think he's in Dylan's team. It's a little overpriced, but still going there. Fair. Okay, guys. Next up, another one that's going to divide opinion. Let us know when I'm talking about it if you are Salah in or Salah out. And look, the reason I've gone against Salah isn't because I think Salah's a bad pick. It's simply because KDB is a much better pick, right? So for me, you can only have one. I haven't seen many drafts with both that I've particularly liked. And look, if you think you can get both, perhaps do. But for me, you can cover that Liverpool attack with the guy we've just been talking about. Darwin Núñez is 3 million less. No, he's 4 million less almost. That's a huge saving considering they're going to get very similar points, in my opinion. Sure, Salah has pens. But let's compare him with KDB. KDB, same price point, give or take. But he gets you guaranteed minutes, guaranteed Man City attack. I love that for KDB because the other Man City players don't give you that. Whilst with Liverpool, you can still cover them with players like Darwin, I feel. For me, you don't get the extra fixture like you do with KDB, but also 6 games coming up for Liverpool. only 2 of them are at Anfield. 2 out of 6. That's not good enough when you're going big on a team. And if you're going Darwin and Salah, that's 25% of your budget on a Liverpool attack with only 2 home games in 6. Just not for me. There we go. Are you in or out on Salah, guys? Let us know in the chat. Dean, I can't remember. Your draft was, you had Salah, not KDB, didn't you?
Yeah, I've got Salah. Yeah, I feel like this is
swap or not?
Bit of a punt for you now. No chance. I'm on Salah.
And you don't have Darwin, so I guess that's.
I haven't got Darwin.
Decision, yeah.
Salah takes pens. Liverpool are going to get pens. He's going to come good. Like, Salah's got 6 goals this season. That is not going to continue. Like, Salah's going to end up in the top 3 goal scorers in this league. I'm still convinced of it. Especially, I mean, as I say, I didn't watch the game last night, but you said Salah was playing more centrally again. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah, he was.
And that's the thing you've got to remember. Salah has not been doing well because he was playing in a ridiculous position out on the right touchline most of the time, and he could not be effective. As soon as you move him centrally, he does the business. He's a much bigger threat. Goals, assists, winning penalties, whatever it is, scoring penalties. I think this is a big punt by people not to take Salah. It always is. It always is. Even if he's not in form, you know you're running a risky game. Wow, Colm says no Salah or KDB. that's big. But yeah, you got to make one big call, and I guess this is yours.
Yeah, exactly that. Guys, thank you all for your opinions on that. Really appreciate that. And both are so divided. Guys, next up, we've got a couple of minutes left. We might get to some questions, but we've been answering them throughout the show anyway. Please do like the stream. Only 70 of you have hit that like button. And the way the YouTube algorithm works, the more people that like it, the more people see it. And we want to grow this community. Obviously, subscribe as well. Look, these streams are Monday and Friday at 7. We're back to our normal routine after doing the World Cup streams, which have been a bit all over the place in terms of timetable. Slightly different next week with the fixtures. We're not going to have a Monday night stream. That's Boxing Day, but we'll be back midweek. So make sure you're following Chasing Green Arrows on Twitter and setting alerts on YouTube. But next up, I want to show you about a little giveaway. Now, this is only relevant for perhaps some of you because there is a football game on the 26th of December. Big FPL game in this. Arsenal versus West Ham. And Pick Story have given me 2 tickets to give away. Now, if you live in London or you can get to London on Boxing Day and you're an Arsenal fan or have an interest in that fixture, then please do enter. Now, to enter is very simple. I've just put in the chat a Twitter link. Just click on that link and it will show you what to do. But pretty much all you have to do is retweet one of my tweets and comment and follow Pick Story. So those 3 simple things. The draw is taking place in 20 minutes time. I'm going to do a little video clip and post it on Twitter. So if you want to be considered for those tickets, I would love it to go to someone on Chasing Green Arrows. At the moment, only like 30 people have entered. So someone from Chasing Green Arrows really
great
could win
chance
this.
to get tickets to a good game. That is a great
so
chance.
Cool. I like Luke, for example. I know he lives in London. Luke, I think you've said before you're in Peckham. So look, maybe West Ham fans, Mark. I mean, you can, but they're tickets with the home section. It's up to you.
Just go in disguise and you can.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there we go, guys. Do check out the link that I've just put in the chat if you want to take part. Dean, we're getting loads of questions and we've got about 30 seconds left. Mm-hmm. If you're on Mitrovic at the moment, everyone's been asking, I know you said earlier, but loads have just joined. Should you be taking the risk or should you be waiting, going with someone else with a view to buying him perhaps in game week 18?
It seems very unlikely that he plays. I mean, the fact that there's still doubt this close to the game suggests to me he's not going to play. I did try and get a steer from someone at the club today. His hunch too was that he won't start the game from what he's seen around the place. Obviously, he had the foot injury already going into the World Cup. He was always going to play in the World Cup. This is Mitrovic. He would have just played through pain. And now we're probably feeling the effects of him playing through games that he probably shouldn't have played in if he had this injury. I don't think this is a long-term thing. I just think that for this game particularly, is unlikely to be risked. I mean, it's just not worth it at this point. For the fact too that it's Crystal Palace away, it's not like he's going to go there and bag a hat trick. Like if he plays, he might score, but like it's still not a certainty at all. I would hold off, and if Mitro is seen in that game, be tempted maybe to get him in for Southampton at home on New Year's Eve. That is a game that Fulham could go and win 2-3-0, and Mitrovic is the man that comes up with all the goals. Crystal Palace away, I mean, it's going to be a low-scoring affair, so it's probably not worth it.
Yeah. Good stuff, guys. Thank you so much for the likes, the subscribes. Loads asking in the chat where the link is. I've posted it 3 times. I'm under the Fantasy Football Social, but there's a Twitter link in there. Just click the Twitter link. I can see a couple of people have just entered. So there you go. I'm putting in the chat one final time. But for now, guys, I think that's probably it. Dean, you've got any Christmas plans? You having Christmas at yours? Family coming round?
I got family. No, I never host Christmas. I'm not that brave, and I'm not good enough at cooking.
Same.
So thankfully, I've got an aunt who is willing to have everybody round, and there'll be like 20 of us going round there for dinner, and there'll be probably be a bit of chaos with the kids, but that's fun. Hopefully, I'll just be sat there with a nice glass of red wine, just sitting back and chilling out and waiting for Boxing Day. Obviously, in England, all these games are on Amazon Prime. And I just noticed today that I don't actually have Amazon. And after the last round of games, my subscription was running out. And I was like, oh, I just won't renew that because I don't need it anymore. I didn't realise there was another round of games coming. So that'll be renewed on Christmas Day. And
I renewed mine on Boxing Day last year. I definitely remember doing that. I've still got it.
I'd love to see the stats of how many people sign up on these match days.
30-day trial.
Yeah. But thanks, everyone. I hope everyone on here has a good Christmas or celebrates whatever it is that you're going to be celebrating in the holiday season. It's been great to be back. I'm so excited that the Premier League is back. And yeah, thanks for the support. Like us if you can, because we really want to build this up again. The World Cup fantasy game didn't quite live up to anything at all, really. But we kept plugging away because we just loved it. We love this game and love this community. So yeah, happy holidays to everyone.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you, guys. Cheers for watching. We'll be back middle of next week. Follow us for more on that. It's likely to be midweek, like Wednesday-ish. But for now, he's been Dean, I've been Gianni, and we've been chasing green arrows.